Yeah, hi, this is Simone Claridge with True Better You, and I have a dear friend of mine here. This is, you want to explain?
Yeah, my name is Maarten van Opstal. It's a Dutch name, Dutch language name. I'm living in Belgium. I'm 51 years old, and that's it. Yes.
Yeah, and I met Martin at a course about singing Qigong in China. We did this all together. We have been hanging out for 2 months and started to know each other, going through a lot of, changes and transformation together. And we found that we are really in tune with each other in many ways. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to see it, I don't have a problem that Martin has to deal with, but he has so many wisdom gems that is coming out of this now that it would be fantastic just to hear about. He has been suffering of a kidney disease when was it?
The kidneys problem came out in '97 when I was hospitalized with extremely high blood pressure. Yes.
Wow, that's a long time ago, right?
It's more than 21 years ago now. Yeah.
Wow. So, but
Yes.
meanwhile, you have been living a mainly so-called normal life as everyone else on the planet. You just suffered from getting more fatigued, being not able to do a couple of things, but still functioning to a really good degree. But then there came a new change. So maybe you want to start from there, and I would love to hear how how you dealt with this, how physically you have been, taxed emotionally, mentally, and what for transformation did you experience that you would like to share?
Okay. Now, 21 years in a nutshell. I've received a transplant just 4 weeks ago. It's my second kidney transplant. I lost my transplant function, the first one, in from 2009 until 2013, and then the only option to stay alive was dialysis. So I've been on 5 years. 5 years I was on dialysis, on a waiting list for a new kidney, which came on the 7th of July of 2018. So it's very recent. And I'm still recovering, of course, from my operation. And the first signs out of the hospital are that it's very okay and it's doing very well. And each time I go, which is 2 times a week now, to the hospital, the kidney function improves, which means that I'm getting very healthy once again. The first time was in 2000, and the kidney worked very well. It was a donor kidney for my sister, so it was a living donor transplant, which was very special, and it functioned very well for 9 to 10 years. And then the kidney started to fail due to medicine or due to the fact it was just getting worse. I don't know. Um, Part of the mystery of kidney disease is that people are unable to find kidney disease in time. It can be there hidden somewhere. If you don't know, it's very important to look at your blood pressure. Your blood pressure will tell you if it's an indication of how healthy you are in general, and especially for the kidneys. So in '97, this is 21 years ago, I had headaches, and following the headaches, I went to a house doctor, a GP, and he said, "Oh, you have a migraine like your mother." So I went home, got some medicine for migraine, and nothing happened. The headaches worsened, and I went back after 3 weeks, and I said, "I can stand on my head, but there's so much pain." And I said, "I need a blood test." I didn't know why. I said, "But I need it." And after some resistance, he agreed. And the day after I received my diagnosis, at the general practitioner. I went to the hospital and I was sent to intensive care because my blood pressure was 260 over 150.
Oh my
It
goodness.
could have been the end. 21 years later, I'm still here, so I didn't die. But it was a very confrontational time because I had my kidneys were not functioning very well anymore. By then already less than half. So when the kidneys start to fail, the problem is in the end you will lose all of it. So below a certain function you will lose it. So when that happened, there was only two options: either go on dialysis or receive a kidney transplant. While I was waiting, because I was still in a pre-dialysis phase, my sister started to come up with the idea to give me a kidney. And that was an amazing few months. It was 6 months before the testing was over. And so in 2000, May 2000, 9th of May 2000, I know exactly, of course, she gave me the kidney. She donated me the kidney, and I was operated well. And my life was again from the outside. Everything looked fine, and I was doing well. So I picked up my work again and my social life and all that was surrounding that, and I was just working again. But in the years following 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, increasingly I was suffering from mental and emotional problems. And it was time for a change. It happened by itself because I was getting depleted all the time and was getting very sort of depressed about myself and what has happened. And I had a hard time to share my story, which was part of the problem, is that I didn't want to tell about my transplant. I kept it hidden. I just moved on. So while I was doing all this work, I was working as a consultant and then as a psychologist, which I was already. I noticed something that when I was speaking with people in a personal sense, I was getting a little bit nervous because the next subject would be me, of course, to talk about my problems and about my kidney problem. And I was not very good at telling these stories. And so I noticed that I need to open up a little bit more. And a little is just, no, that's not the truth. I should open a lot. And while in small circles I was opening up, I couldn't really in the bigger circle. So I joined a course of psychotherapy, and it was becoming a coach, personal coach. And in that year I learned a lot. So I opened myself with a lot of tears, a lot of resistance to opening up, but I felt every time I did, something was releasing in my body that I've been holding for a long time. So when that happened, I was really happy. So at the end of the course, I decided to go to China. I was already attracted to energy and how energy works between people and within people in conversations with coaching. So what I did was I went to China together with my wife, and we joined a group travel learning how to practice energy work or Qigong. And this was a great opportunity. Though after 5 days of intensive practice in a monastery in the mountains of China, we ended up in a severe earthquake. And this was really a strong earthquake. And I think at that moment I realized I survived the earthquake, and I am receiving a gift of life. So after all, then maybe there's something special here that I can live through this again after the first problems with the kidneys. And so I was really, at that moment, I felt, now I'm ready. I'm going to start my practice as a coach. maybe I'm going to be a psychotherapist. Everything is has turned in my favor. And that was a point where the kidney started, the transplant kidney started to fail again. So at that moment, I realized I want to keep my kidney. I want to save it. And now I know how to do with energy. I know the energy work. And of course, or not of course, but things go as the way they go. So I lost my kidney over the years, the transplant kidney. And in 2011, I had to stop working. In 12 had operations, 13 had operations, and 14. And in 2013, I went on dialysis. Now, before I went on dialysis, I spoke to a friend and who died. He had the same problem as I had, also kidney failure. And I learned from him. He was in the last months of his life, and he taught me many principles. I was speaking to him just, very informal, and we spoke for days and months sometimes. But then it was like, what can I learn from somebody that is suffering from kidney disease and kidney failure, who has been there? He was a little bit older than I am. And he taught me many things about how to deal with dialysis and how to get away from everything that is medical and try to live your life, not anybody else's life, not the doctor's life. Listen to yourself. That was his basic message. But that was difficult. You have to listen to yourself. What do I want in life? Now I feel that the powers in me are not that great anymore. I mean, I'm going on dialysis. People were afraid in the hospital. Doctors were afraid I was going to die. And I was in no state to do anything else but, live through all the medical treatments they gave me. And once I started dialysis, some things started to improve. Some things went worse. So dialysis accounts for 10% of your kidney function, which leaves 90% of the, let's say, the poison of what you have because of food or just living. It stays in the body. So 10% is just barely enough to stay alive. And one day I came in the hospital and there was a graph and it says survival rate of kidney dialysis patients. And it says after 5 years, 50% of you have died. So I was taking pictures of that, took it home, and I was looking at it, of course, and I showed it to some people. So this was a truth I already knew, but when I see it in real, in graphs in front of you, it's like now this is part of kidney disease and kidney failure, is you have no choice. There's no choice. And that's the best thing that can happen to you. If you have no choice, you do all the things that are needed to stay alive, or you die. I mean, there's some truth, you will die. But you have to make choices when you want to stay alive. So you make the best choices when you're under pressure. And there is no way back. There's no way back. So it was easy for me to leave the past and to live in the moment. One thing I did was I bought a camper van. So a road vehicle, I think they call it in the United States. And it was the best thing I've ever done. Because we rented, we had the camper van, and we decided to travel after I had some heart problems. We said, now we throw everything overboard and we just go. And we moved, we just drove to the south of Spain and stayed there for months. So from the early spring on. And it was the best decision ever because I felt free. I felt like a nomad. I was traveling like I was completely healthy, and it got my mind completely open and heart completely open away from all medical problems. And it gave me the chance also to realize there's another life waiting for me. So I created the opportunity through the camper van, but I also realized that I have to do dialysis 5 times a day. And I did it in the vehicle, which means that each 2 hours or 3 hours I had to stop somewhere and take 25 minutes to do dialysis. And I'm not going to bother you too much with the types of dialysis, but one is blood dialysis that I didn't do. So I did the peritoneal dialysis, which means you use the peritoneum as a membrane to exchange with fluids. And they take some of your poison out of your body. Cleans enough to stay alive. So from 2013 to 2018, just recent, I have never skipped a day, 5 times a day, dialysis all the time. So when you think about how livable is that, then you need to go to the hospital once in 6 weeks, and always there's something wrong. But having said that, there's medicine, and the medicine are very strong, but also the food restrictions are extremely imposing on you. And there's a fluid, or called a restriction, just taking 1 liter of water a day. That includes the tea, coffee, or whatever you drink, soup. So everything is in that 1 liter. So you get used to not drinking, you get used to limited amounts of food, and you cannot eat fruits, you cannot eat vegetables, you cannot eat lentils, you cannot eat nuts, you cannot eat chocolate, you cannot have beer, it's almost nothing. And each thing you take, you think, oh, maybe it's bad for me or not. So it becomes a game. And maybe the best way to describe it is when you are very hard for yourself and you become very hard as a person to be able to withstand the problems that come with dialysis, then you don't miss anything. So,
can you say what you could eat? What was what you could eat?
What the food I was taking was all related to how much protein is in the food, because that was a limitation. Well, as you know, protein is almost in any food. So I had to just choose, just see what is, for example, I like rice crackers. So I read rice crackers all the time. Then there was something in my blood was not right. So I think they call it phosphorus. Is that the English term? And they said it's too high. And then it seems that in rice crackers there's a lot of phosphorus. So I couldn't eat that. So I was trying to find the crackers that were really. I found some crackers from Israel. They were produced in the Netherlands. They're called matzah, and they're really thin, but it was the only thing I could eat for that time. So then, what do we eat for dinner? So I took a very small part of some meat, some fish, or some chicken, which I could have, and then limit on anything that is green in it. But it was really measuring all the food, almost, putting on a scale how much I can have.
So
and then
how much was it? I mean, how much food intake, if you want to put this on a gram or calorie base, do you know?
No, I'm not putting on a scale literally, but I was just trying to have a complete meal. Let's say I could not have any pasta, for example. So rice. So I was putting rice on my plate, but I could never finish it, because also with dialysis you're not really hungry, or you don't have a taste for food, because with dialysis it also takes away the taste and the smell of food. So I was just eating something, but I didn't have the pleasure. Once in a while I went to a restaurant, and then I went over my budget, not in the money sense, but in the what was permitted. And then I felt bad the next day. And then I felt the food was not going well for my digestive system. And so there was no reserve, which is very important to understand. Most people have a reserve. You go one night out, you're sleeping too late. Next morning, you feel a little bit, but almost nothing. I could stay in bed the whole day when I ate too much or drank too much. Not drinking alcohol, but drinking too much fluid was already. So there was no reserve. There was no way I could escape, which leaves you to go to bed at 10 o'clock, try to sleep 9 hours, and then it's bearable. It's okay. And now every time I said to myself, it's okay. Then with the dialysis itself, I try not to get angry, but once you get angry, then it's finished. Because there's so much things you can get angry about. Enjoying your life is difficult. So what I really enjoyed, that's the next step, was I was practicing Qigong. And I realized that not for everybody, but energy work also means what to do and what to do not, and how to enjoy the smallest thing in life. And I think I managed pretty well too. I was teaching to other students and still do, to other students in the group. And sometimes I had a problem, so then I said, sorry, I'm not here for 6 weeks because I have a medical problem. Then I came back and they were really happy. And for me, it was a way to connect to people just from the heart. And I decided to only work from the heart. I was a volunteer. I'm still a volunteer. I don't ask any money for my teaching. And I just go there and see what happens. And I really felt every time I'm opening my heart to myself and then connect to the other people and they do the same, then we have a special group experience. And that was enough for me. I was just happy. I was tired at the end of the day, but it was so rewarding to do that. So this is just one example of having small things really matter for you. And so the harder it became, the more I start to enjoy the small things. So obviously, when dialysis takes years, the body will start to, the 10%, remind you of the 10%, the body cannot take it anymore. So it starts to become more of a problem than you can handle. And so in the beginning of this year, we had some major losses in our family. My father-in-law died and my dog died. And I was feeling very bad. I was connected to the loss. And I also felt that when you start to connect to losing, to loss and death, then there's something changing within you. The energy goes down immediately. So if you ask me, if you cannot have food, what can you have? Then the energy of life has to come from liveliness, from people or things around you that are alive and take you somewhere, like going on a trip with a vehicle and just taking decisions all the time, being out there. It's feeling alive. That's the energy you get. So I was connecting to something that's called, let's say, near the end. And I started to have some problems on my heart again. And then I realized that when I was called for this transplant in July, something happened within me that said, no, I'm going to get this transplant, even if I know that there's something with my heart. And so they took this graph of my heart, the EKG or ECG, and then they said, it's okay. But I didn't tell them about my heart problem. So when at the end of the operation, in the middle of the night, I had a small heart attack, still under anesthetics. And so when I woke up, they slowly starting to reveal what happened. And I heard about it and I said, no problem, I'm still here. I made it. I have my transplant and the problems with the heart, I will survive, I'm sure. And I was so happy from inside, and I still am, that I I went through the last months were serious problems, but I always kept the trust somehow that one day would come, I will receive the kidney again. And now you cannot imagine how much is waiting in front of me still medically, but also there's a whole new experience of a new life at 51 years old waiting for me. But so I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm sure that I'm going to enjoy it. So that's story.
Oh man, thank you so much. I mean, this is I mean, you have to know someone is going through that and opening up like you did. I mean, that's really awesome. I appreciate this and thank you for sharing with people. They need a little bit of encouragement. They may be in the same situation and even don't know. So, what would be your most, how do you say, gift to the people listening to here? What what you got out of your whole journey, and what would you recommend if someone is on a similar path as you have been?
Yeah. The first thoughts I have are my wife.
Mm.
I have a very good relationship, and she has been going through all these things with me. And for her, it's in a way it's harder because she looks at me and I'm feeling it, but she doesn't feel it as such. And so often we have supported each other. So in the hospital, I said, go home because it's not good to come now. But most of the time, it was the other way around, and I've been really fortunate with that. Second is I love animals. I love gardening. I love the peace and quietness of being in nature, and it makes me feel reflected in nature. So maybe you already think I'm grateful whatever happens. Even if I die, I will still be grateful for the life I've received. That's the biggest transformation. Don't fall in the trap of being a victim or somebody that believes in the illness story. Emotionally, it's very easy to become like like a love song of a broken heart and stay like that because that sells very well, but it is not the right way. But it all depends on what you want in your life, and to have a clear idea of what you want to give and to be part of, because you're not alone, and that's also very important. If you feel alone, be sure you're part of some community, either volunteers or people that help you or support you, love you. This is all feeling alive. So you need to feel alive. But the most important for me was to join the group of community of people that also practice Qigong, because it's a very loving and caring community. They are not all friends or personal friends, but you feel like you're busy in the community doing something and practicing Qigong, doing energy work, knowing what your true purpose in life is practice is needed for that. And if you know already what you want in life, even disease cannot take that away from you. So these are some tiny comments, but yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, yeah, of course, everyone has to experience this themselves. There's nothing that can buy you experience or the feeling of it. But sometimes, you know, to hear what like a person like you needed to go through in order to have that experience. So you're actually like our hero because now you have that experience what's conveying through your words. So not everyone has to go the same route, and you are alive. Yeah. So you're proof to there are ways. Yes.
My limbs are all working, and I still can run.
Right. So
So
you're not
that's
transformed yet, you know, so you're still in this physicality, so that's really cool. Even though I really enjoy listening to all these, learning how to transform in a proper way. I do think when we die, we transform again. Just somewhere else. It makes me feel good. So it's like, okay, we have trained that a long time here now in a daily basis. And I think that's the sense of our life in general. And you must be a master because you know now more details than, I mean, most of the people know. So yeah, if someone wants to connect with you, it's probably fine. I will write your email. And
yes, welcome.
And thank you so much. And Simone Claridge says goodbye. And also Maarten.
Thank you, dear Simone. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah. Okay.